Okay. Okay, welcome back to another Total OS Today live event. Hope everyone had a good weekend. A last minute scheduled, unscheduled live event. I need to stop doing these,
Okay.
don't I? Anyway. Okay, welcome back.
To
Stop
another
by and say
Total OS
hello.
Today live event. Hope everyone had a good weekend.
I am awesome. Yay, more streaming. A last minute scheduled, unscheduled live event. I need to stop doing these,
Okay.
don't I? Anyway. Okay,
How's
welcome
everybody
back.
doing?
Stop
Another
by and
Total
say
OS
hello.
Today live event. Hope everyone had a good weekend.
I am awesome. Yay, more streaming. A last minute
How's my audio?
scheduled, unscheduled live event. I need to stop doing these,
Okay.
don't I? Anyway. Okay,
How's
welcome
everybody
back.
doing?
Stop
Another
by. Can you guys hear me okay? How's the audio? Jackie, hello. Good morning. I guess it is good morning for you. How's my audio coming in, guys? Can anybody hear me? It's looking good on my end to make sure it's transmitting okay. I hope. Hello, hello. Anybody here? Hear me? If anybody can hear me, please post it in the comments there in the chat. Okay, very good. Hello, C. Okay, well, thought I would talk a little bit about Ubuntu Unity and where it's headed. We're going to be listening to, hopefully, if I can get this to stream correctly, the Ubuntu podcast. They released the team at UbuntuPodcast.org. They released the latest podcast, and among the topics was what happened to Unity. I didn't listen to the entire podcast. Coming in by 5 by 5. Thank you, C. Um, so yes, the Ubuntu podcast. I listened to most of it, and they mentioned Unity. What's going on? There were some other topics that they mentioned that I thought was very interesting to listen to. So I thought I would share the podcast with you. I don't think they would mind. Let me go here while you guys are tuning in. It's ubuntupodcast.org, season 10, episode 7. And your host for that episode was Alan Pope, or Popey, Mark Johnson, Martin Wimpress, and Emma Marshall. So a big shout out to all of those co hosts of the show. Of course, Martin Wimpress is the lead developer for the terrific Ubuntu Mate. Of course. Hello, Alexis. Yeah, I started a little bit late. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. And this live stream stuff so far has worked pretty good for me, but I guess every once in a while stuff happens. But Alexis, welcomes aboard. 8 East. Yeah, it's 8 o'clock Eastern time if that's what you meant. Although I started this about 15 minutes late here Eastern time. Alexis, I'm not sure which time zone you are from. Um, anyway, 8 p.m. Eastern or New York time. Okay, so yes, we're going to talk a little bit about the Ubuntu Unity and I suppose, the earth-shattering news that Ubuntu will be dropping the Unity desktop after 6 years of development, Alexis, I guess the whole convergence thing did not turn out as expected, at least from a business standpoint. That's from what I have been, from the information I have gathered. Excuse me. Let me see if I can switch to my webcam. Can you guys see me okay? Hello. Merry Melodies, hello. You are still trying to put Gallium OS on my Chromebook. Oh? May I ask why? I don't have a Chromebook. I thought about buying one, but I think I have enough toys as it were. So once again, welcome to the live Total OS Today show, talking about Ubuntu, excuse me, Ubuntu's Unity. You have found that most live streams start about 15-20 minutes after they post. No, I've usually been on time, see, 99% I think. Haven't I? I think so. Hello, Merry Melodies. Hello. Hey, Toss. Hey, Mary. See, I've usually been on time, I think. No reason, Toss. Okay. Hello, Atov. May I ask, where are you from? Atov? I'm going to guess Spain? Anyway. Okay, so I have downloaded the latest Ubuntu podcast. So we're going to play it, take a listen to it, and I will mute my mic, and we'll see what you guys think. How does that sound? It's Bulgaria. Wow, awesome, cool. The international show for this evening, right? Do you guys use Ubuntu down there, or some other form of Linux? Okay, so let me go to this. And let's see if I can bring up the podcast to listen to it without this thing crashing. So hopefully the sound will come out okay. So let's see, here we go. 1 second. Okay, I'm going to play this in the VLC. So this is the Ubuntu podcast, courtesy of the Ubuntu team. Okie dokie. All right, here we go. Let's see if it plays.
Alexa, play the Ubuntu
Can
podcast
you guys hear
on
that?
TuneIn.
Getting the latest episode of Ubuntu podcast. Here it is from TuneIn.
Are you guys hearing that okay? You never liked Unity, okay.
Hello, and welcome to Season 10, Episode 7 of the Ubuntu Podcast. It's Tuesday, the 18th of April, and we're going to spend some time discussing one rather important topic in the news and community.
You guys can hear
I'm
the
Alan,
podcast.
and
Good.
joining me this week is Emma. Welcome back.
Hi,
How
thanks
are
for
you?
having me.
No worries. It's good to hear you. Mark.
Hello.
I will mute
Hello,
my
and
mic.
Martin.
And
Hello.
You guys listen,
Yay, we're all
post
here.
your comments,
Super. It's lovely to have you
and
back, Emma.
I will type in
what have you been
my
up to
response.
recently?
How does that sound, okay?
Besides work, I finished a pretty major project at my house, bedazzling. I don't know if you guys know about my obsession with the color pink, but I added, I like pink sparkly to be precise.
Okay.
And so I bedazzle furniture and decorations. So I finished a whole wall of picture frames.
Wow.
So
Is this one
Which took a very
adding
long
pink
time.
sparkly things to things and making them more pink and more sparkly?
Yes. You should see my kitchen table. It's amazing.
Well, you're going to have to send us photographs now.
Yes.
Okay, I'll tweet them. I'll tweet them later.
Yeah,
Oh my
please,
God.
please tweet them and tag Ubuntu Podcast so we can see those.
Okay.
So my daughter is similarly afflicted by this pink gene, and everything is pink everywhere. And I once went away to a work thing, and sometimes I bring clothes back for them, and I felt conflicted. Like, should I buy her pink stuff? You know, she's a girl and everything. She loves pink, and everything I bring back, it does. If I bring back something pink, she loves it, and I think, actually, I should just carry on buying pink stuff and just ignore everyone who tells me, no, you shouldn't buy her pink stuff. It's reinforcing stuff. So
I'm the easiest person to buy for because my birthday was in March and everybody just got me random pink stuff. It was amazing.
Sweet. That's awesome. Mark, what have you been up to?
I have been completing a game called Sunless Sea.
What's that then?
It's a sort of ship trading roguelike story adventure kind of game.
You're selling it.
I've got a newbie question.
Go on.
I keep hearing it's either roguelike or roguelite. I'm not quite sure which I'm hearing.
So glad you're asking.
What does that mean?
Right, so there was a game called Rogue, which is like a really old sort of text-based thing.
Before Mark was born.
Yeah, which is the kind of game that something like NetHack is based on, where you're like running around a dungeon and killing stuff and then dying and starting all over again.
Right.
So a roguelike is a game a bit like that. Usually you have sort of different classes of people and you go around collecting stuff and you die and you use what you learnt from that time to do a bit better next time.
You said it was boat-based. Are there boats in the caves or dungeons? Or
Well, you're in like an underground cavern with a massive ocean in it, and you go around in your ship visiting islands and unveiling stories and collecting stuff, and you can choose like one of 3 or 4 different sort of they're called ambitions. That's like your ultimate quest throughout the game, but it's a massive time sink and you can play it for hours and hours, and I completed one of the endings after playing it for a very long time.
I mean, an underground lake with islands, and you've got a boat down there. How did they get the wood down there? And how does the
there's a whole story. It's this sort of weird Lovecraftian thing. Queen Victoria sold London to an underground tentacly monster thing, and and there's demons and talking dogs and monkeys and all sorts.
Still don't know how you photosynthesize, but all right, I'll let it slide.
Oh, mushrooms. You don't need photosynthesis.
You make boats out of mushrooms.
No, the boat's made out of wood. Right. Metal. Wood.
Oh.
What am I talking about?
All right, you got away with that one.
Yeah.
And get on with it.
Also, really big mushrooms go like woody as well.
Is this like a graphical adventure, text adventure type thing, or is this, pretty graphics interactive?
It's a bit of both. Sort of when you're moving around, it's a very graphical game. But then when you're on one of the islands, it's more like a text adventure, choosing options and picking responses to questions and so on.
Okay.
So it's like half sort of, tactical chip trading kind of elite kind of thing, and half storytelling.
And at any point you get to race cars in this game?
Afraid not.
It's dead to me.
Well, on that bombshell, let's move on.
And now it's time for the news. And of course, there's only really one news story to discuss this week, and that's the announcement of a snap general election. No, of course it's not. It's the announcement of Ubuntu's refocus from mobile and convergence to cloud and the Internet of Things. Now, as regular listeners to the podcast will probably know, Alan and Martin, my 2 glorious co-hosts, work for Canonical, the company behind Ubuntu. There's obviously implications for the future of people's jobs within the company as part of this story. So we feel it will probably be a bit insensitive and potentially career limiting for us to comment on the speculation and sort of internal company gossip within the show. So with that in mind, here's what we know so far. What's happened?
There was a blog post that was posted on the 5th of April. And it was titled Growing Ubuntu for Cloud and IoT Rather Than Phone and Convergence. I think this surprised a lot of people. It got shared around quite a lot, and I think it was a surprise to a lot of people who are competitors, users, and interested third parties. So there was a lot of resharing of that article, and then after that, obviously there's a lot of questions, and so there were lots of posts on blogs and news articles on all the mainstream press. In fact, I was quite surprised to see there was a news article on the BBC about it, and
probably the most factually inaccurate coverage of the whole thing so far.
Right. Okay. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. That's what happened on the 5th of April.
Right. And so what exactly did we find out what's going to happen to Ubuntu heading towards the next LTS?
I think that's, so there was kind of like a couple of high level statements, but the detail is like, some of it is yet to be worked out. But I think the general theme in the blog post was the goal for 1804 will be Unity 7 or 8 won't be the default desktop.
Right.
But instead, Ubuntu will ship GNOME upstream rather than something that was developed internally, Unity.
Right. So a sort of a hark back to the pre-1204 days of shipping just a GNOME desktop, pretty much stock with an app selection.
Yeah, I don't think we ever shipped like stock upstream anything ever. There's always like, even if you go back to Warty Warthog, like the very first release of Ubuntu, it was customized a bit. There was a theme and a brown wallpaper. And
yes.
Yeah, it was customized a bit. And I realized, wallpaper is like the absolute minimum you can do to customize your distribution. There's like not a lot of stuff done there. But yeah, there was a fair amount of engineering work that went into making that an Ubuntu experience, as it were.
So this is a return to GNOME, though. And I suppose one thing I'd be interested is, there are other desktop environments out there. Are there any others that you might have chosen ahead of GNOME?
It's trying to get a mention for Ubuntu Mate in there first.
Well, no, it's interesting because of course this is a return to GNOME, but it's not a return to the same GNOME that Ubuntu left.
No, it's not. No,
because the GNOME project moved on when we split off and started shipping Unity. GNOME went their way with GNOME Shell. There's some certain visual similarities between the two because the embryo of both projects started around about the same time with many of the same people from similar design documents. But they've gone their own ways and used different technology as well. Yeah. So, the GNOME Shell is built on X and then ported so that it works on Wayland, and Unity 7 was built with Nux and Compiz, and then Unity 8 is now Qt and based on Mir. So they've diverged quite a lot. So this is quite a hard reset back to GNOME, that's for sure.
Yeah. But in answer to your question, Martin, I have been wondering, because before Unity, particularly before Unity got the HUD, which is its killer feature for me, that's where you can search and launch app menus from the keyboard. I was always using KDE. So I've thought of perhaps revisiting KDE. I know it's changed quite a lot since I last used it, so I'd certainly be up for exploring KDE again and seeing what it's got to offer now.
It's interesting. There's been a lot of Martin. There's been a lot of discussion. I've seen like lots of people within a week or so of this post going out and the decision and the direction being set. A lot of people saying, right, that's it, wiped Unity off my machine, I've reinstalled, different distro or different desktop, or I've made nuke it from orbit and start all over again. A lot of people seem to have done that.
Yeah.
Although, if you're running 1604, then, technically, your Unity 7 installation doesn't explode tomorrow. It's not time bombed to blow up the second, the Canonical make the commitment to move to GNOME. It kind of makes sense, I guess, for some people to switch over to some other desktop if they want, their future updates, I guess.
Yeah. So, Mark, has this made you rethink your, evaluating, Kubuntu, for example?
Possibly. I mean, I had no interest in really looking at another desktop other than Unity because it fits my workflow very well. But if Unity isn't going to have the sort of first line default status that it had before, then, you know, I definitely considered looking at something else and maybe trying Ubuntu again and trying KDE Neon and seeing what they're like.
So one thing that's interested me, Emma, is you get to talk to a lot of System 76 customers, and you know, obviously the machines go out the door with Ubuntu on them with, you know, Unity, but do you ever get calls from people who are trying something different, who are, you know, they've wiped Ubuntu and they've installed something else, whether that's, you know, Arch or just a different desktop or whatever?
I would say at least half of the people I talk to ask if we can load a different desktop environment on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we wrote an article on our support page, just with a couple different options of just adding your desktop environment and leaving Ubuntu underneath, so you still have our drivers installed.
Yeah.
But it was that popular that we had to write something so we could have something easier to send to so many people.
And what desktops feature in that article, just out of interest?
There is Mint and GNOME, and I think Mate.
Martin will be happy about that.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I had no idea that there would be a significant number of, like, you know, we're somewhat a few steps away from end users a lot of the time, especially like non-technical end users who buy computers from vendors such as System 76 and Dell and others. You know, we generally don't get to interact with those people, and so we don't know if they've, you know, nuked it from orbit and installed Windows XP, or, you know, put Arch on it, or just changed the desktop, or carry on using Unity, because we don't tend to probe, you know, their machines, so we don't know what they're running, you know.
Yeah. So
it's a pretty popular question every day.
Wow.
Yeah. So Emma, I guess from System 76's point of view, this is, you know, this announcement would have been quite significant for you, given that it's going to be like a change in sort of what you're going to have to support and what you're going to be testing on the machines that you're sending out. So what was the kind of reaction for you as sort of like a third party, but who's quite affected by this announcement?
Well, so I was really surprised. I think all of us didn't see it coming and weren't expecting it that day.
Yeah, you're telling me.
But it was really cool because Carl, our CEO, he noticed, you know, everyone was really affected by the news and that we all had our different opinions about it. Yeah. Of course, there were the geek debates and speculations going on most of the day in different corners of the office. But we closed up early that day and had a round table where we could all just go around one by one and give our thoughts about it. So that helped with if everyone was scared or worried about our future, it kind of relieved everybody, and we're just really excited about it instead of worrying about the future. So I'm excited too, because that means we get to add a little bit more customization to the System 76 experience, since we'll be doing our own themes and adding extensions, and I think it's going to be a great opportunity for us.
So you see GNOME as, because it's a bit more open to customization, that gives you the chance to put your mark on it a bit more in what you ship.
Yeah, exactly. We've already started working on it. So
wow,
well,
cool.
We'll be interested to see what comes out of that. I think.
And if it's it's value add that, you know, you provide the other people. So, you know, typically if a company ships a machine, we reviewed a Dell last time, and you know, one of the extra features they have, obviously they've got the hardware support stuff, the same as you do for your devices, but they only added a couple of extra applications to the desktop. There wasn't a lot that was changed. I guess this gives you the opportunity to tweak those things that, you know, your users phone you and tell you, you know, could you really change this? Could you make it bigger, smaller, move the thing to this side or that side, or up or down, or whatever? And you could share that stuff. So people could, you know, even if they didn't buy a System 76, obviously you would prefer they did, but if people didn't buy a System 76, if you open source those extensions, people could have the System 76 theme on, you know, the machine that they built themselves or whatever. And
yeah, everything is going to be open source. I confirmed that already. So
sweet.
Cool. Well, I mean, the desktop was probably the biggest bit of news, but this wasn't just an announcement about the desktop. One of the interesting things for me was that although the the shift is going away from the phone and there aren't going to be new phones and Ubuntu Touch isn't going to be maintained, snaps are still going to be taken forward as one of the core technologies of Ubuntu.
Right. So the phone was based on the Click technology, which is a precursor to snaps. Yeah. And yeah, we learned a lot from Clicks and developed snaps as kind of like Clicks on crack, or whatever you want to call it, or, Clicks version 2 is probably a safer thing to say, but I think, it would have taken a significant amount of engineering effort to bring snaps to the phone. And I guess, I don't know, I'm not speaking for my employer, but I guess that would have been, too much effort for too little return. I guess they've, some of this, as they've, spoken about, Mark has spoken about, and others, some of this is financial and reorganization.
Yeah.
And, if you're doing something that isn't bringing in revenue, then don't carry on doing it. It doesn't make sense in any business. It doesn't make sense to carry on doing something that's hurting your bottom line, I guess.
Yeah, well, it does. Yeah, that's one of the things that struck me about actually previously. Mark has said, if Ubuntu just did the server stuff, then it could be profitable because that brings in money. It seems like this refocuses specifically around, the bits of the business which are actually, a commercial success. It means like some of it's a bit less sort of blue sky, like throw money at it and try it out and do something cool. But it's also stuff which is in the space it's in still quite cool and innovative.
I mean, those kind of like financial discussions are way, way above my pay grade. So I don't get into those. But yeah, it makes sense. Any business owner is going to focus on the things that make money and, and get rid of, jettison parts of the business. It's unfortunate, but the bits that don't.
And snaps are part of the, the future direction, along with, cloud and server and IoT, and snaps will continue to play a role on desktop Linux as well. And going along with that sort of snaps are sort of solving problems in the IoT space at the moment. There's been a lot of reporting that, the feeling is that if we're going to GNOME 3 and using Wayland, then that's the end of Mia, which is the homegrown display server technology. But it's been made clear that there are IoT projects that are using Mia as the compositor, and that Mia will continue to, in Mark's words, receive investment to support those projects in the IoT space.
Is that because of the way that, as I understand it, snaps have been part of their, confinement stuff is related to the way that Mia does confinement. So is that sort of a key thing from that point of view?
Well, there is the confinement angle, which is beneficial, but I think it's more about the fact that Wayland is a protocol. So if you want to use Wayland, you effectively have to write your own compositor, unless one of the reference compositors suits your use case. Whereas Mia, the server and the client are much more tightly coupled through APIs. So that requirement isn't there. So I think that's why it's been gaining traction in the IoT space.
Cool. Well, that was a bumper news segment. I guess we're going to be getting feedback on this for quite a while now, and we'll probably find more details on this emerge over the coming months, and especially in the run up to the next few releases.
So it's actually, I guess Martin could talk about this briefly, but there was actually a planning meeting today as we record this.
There was.
Go on, give us the high level.
So there was an IRC meeting today on Hash Ubuntu Desktop on Freenode, and it was the first meeting between the Ubuntu GNOME team, the Ubuntu Desktop team, and other interested community members. We'll have a link to that in the show notes. There were lots of questions posed today, many of which have been deferred for future discussion because you simply can't try and discuss the whole thing up front. There's a lot of groundwork that needs to be done before some of the other decisions can be taken. But what was agreed today is there's been an agreement on how the Ubuntu GNOME team and the desktop team will collaborate in terms of removing the Unity patches from the GNOME stack that Ubuntu currently uses. So the idea is to remove some of the Unity specific patches there. And we're going to be using merge proposals and launchpad bugs, and then sort of more direct one-to-one communication in the Ubuntu development IRC channel, so that's going to be quite one-to-one and responsive. We're going to create a PPA. In fact, the PPA has already been created, where those new packages with the patches removed will be posted. New seeds for what the meta packages are derived from, and also for testing upgrades from, your Ubuntu with Unity to your Ubuntu with GNOME. So that's going to be the testing platform. When all of that's working, then that will be switched into the archive, but it won't be moved to the archive until it's sort of known to be broadly working. There was then a discussion around what are called main inclusion requests. And for those of you...
That's not a confusing acronym.
No, yeah, the acronym is MEARS, which is... Yes, great. So a main inclusion request. So everything that's in the main repository in Ubuntu is security maintained. And for Ubuntu proper, only packages that are in main are on the image for Ubuntu. And those are the packages that get security reviewed and patched and what have you. So there's now some work going on to see what new packages need to move into the main repository in order to become security reviewed, and what packages that are in main need to be moved to Universe, which is where like the flavors build. And then hopefully the plan is by 17.10 Alpha 2 will be the first milestone release with the GNOME session in place on Ubuntu, and there'll be a call for testing. And then stuff like choosing what the default applications are going to be, and whether we use LightDM or LightDM, or what extensions we're going to use, or what the default theme and icons is. That's all for later discussion and agreement, when the basics have been cleared away.
Cool. Well,
if you have any feedback, let us know where to send it.
Yes. Martin.
Oh, sorry. I was drifting. Drifting off there. Here comes a roundup of the community news and events. Mark, what's up first?
First of all, we have a couple of blog posts about making GNOME Shell feel like Unity. Very timely.
What could possibly have triggered this?
I know, this seems to be blog du jour at the moment, doesn't it?
So, the first one was from friend of the show, Stuart Langridge, who started off with a blog post about some customizations you can make and some GNOME extensions you can install, which do things like put the panel on the left-hand side and put the button at the top to bring up the activities something display, and put some more indicators in the top left with things like a better volume applet and various other bits and bobs, and basically trying to replicate the Unity experience we know and love on GNOME 3. And then some other guy did a blog post. What was that about then, Alan?
Much the same kind of thing. I wrote a little post just to list what I did, and I kind of also wanted to write a little bit about why I really like Unity, because there's a bunch of features like we get.
Just before you get into that, I do want to hear what you like about Unity, but you're about to touch on something that I think has been something of a phenomenon of the comments in the various, blogs and articles about all of this, that all of those silent people that actually like Unity and like all of its features are now saying, but now all of this stuff that I like is going away and I'm not happy about it.
I kind of wasn't going to touch on that, but yeah, okay.
Well, I think you're going to list off some of the features that you like about Unity, but what's happened is in this decision, we now are hearing from people that are perfectly happy with Unity and have been rattling off the things that they're really going to miss and they're struggling to find in other desktop environments.
Right, and nobody needs to change their desktop today. Unity's still there in the archive. It's still supported for a few years yet. So if you've got 1604, you can just carry on using Unity 7 if you really want to. It's not gonna, like I say, it's not gonna be taken out the back and shot in the head like tomorrow and then removed from the archive. It's still there and it will still work. So I just wanted to highlight some of the things that I liked about Unity that I will miss because, there are, having used it since pretty much day one of it being the desktop in Ubuntu, I got used to certain things and I realized some of those things are muscle memory. Some of them are, you could just get used to something else. You get used to whatever is your default and you work around the quibbles and, foibles, sorry. And that's fine. But I kind of quite like things like the HUD. I quite like the dash when it works fast. When it doesn't work fast, I don't like it, but I like being able to press one button and, type an application and it just load and I like having all my indicators in the top right. I don't like having them spread around all over the place. I like having the launcher on the left-hand side. I like having pips next to applications to show, how many instances I've got open. There's a whole ton of stuff that Unity does. It's not perfect. It's got flaws, but I quite liked it. And so I wrote a blog post detailing how I turned my Unity 7 1604 desktop into Ubuntu GNOME.
No,
basically.
If I remember correctly, you were involved in the early days of Unity.
Not really.
No.
I did a bit of release management for it in the middle.
Right.
When it was like version 5, 6, that kind of area.
Okay.
But, yeah. And so I kind of got used to it and used to its foibles. I think no desktop is perfect. Everyone,
yeah.
when you start using a thing over and over again, all day, every day, you discover the weirdness and the oddities about those applications and the desktop and the quirks, and maybe you work around them. And now I've switched to something else, to try it out. I may find that I prefer this. I may find that I prefer GNOME. I may find that I actually start disabling some of the extensions and I prefer the default install. I don't know.
And
it's too early to say.
What have you discovered so far that you haven't been able to get GNOME to do that you missed most from Unity?
There was one thing that I do all the time, and it's a muscle memory thing that I've had since Windows something. When I want to maximize a window, I've always done this. I press Alt and Space, and it opens up the little menu in the top left of a window, and then I press X to maximize, because X is the shortcut key for maximize. So I just do Alt Space X, because all the keys are really close to each other, and it's really fast to maximize. I'm sure there's a better key combination. I'm sure there's some other function key, but that means moving my hand all the way up to the top of the keyboard, whereas I can do Alt Space X really fast.
Yeah.
And it seems like GNOME removed those accelerators. But the good thing is, one of the Ubuntu GNOME developers left a comment on my blog and said, hey, you should file a bug about that. It shouldn't be broken. So, if it is a bug, then we can get it fixed. So it was really nice. I got some feedback from people who use it. So
send that link to Laney, because he was discussing that very thing today and saying he wanted to fix it.
Oh, good. I will when I report the bug. So yes, that's my blog post. What's next, Emma?
Are we talking about the U App Explorer?
Yeah.
Yes. Brian Douglas wrote about the future of U App Explorer and the separation of clicks and...
Okay, so what did you guys think about the podcast and your thoughts about Ubuntu Unity? The forum is open for your discussion. I thought it was interesting. That piece of news about System 76 and half the people prefer a different desktop environment. I thought that was very, very interesting. So what did you guys think? The king of Linux. Don't know if I'm the king of Linux. Maybe the king of dual booting. Maybe. Thank you, though. So what do you guys think? I'm going to leave this up for your thoughts and discussion, and then I'll wrap it up. Left the page open, went to live store only to find the live stream start. I'm sorry, Kyrie. I started it. I changed the time from 9 p.m. to 8:15. Last minute decision, but once I'm done, you can replay this back once it's finished uploading up to YouTube. Sorry about that. I'm doing my best to accommodate all different times and stuff, but you watched the 15 minutes. Okay. MC, interesting podcast. I thought it was. Yeah. Yeah, if Kyrie, it's ubuntupodcast.org. That's a podcast I just played, and that's the topic of this discussion. Very good, fun co-hosts, 4 people on there, and they talked about Ubuntu Unity. It's okay. Okay. Thank you, Kyrie. But yeah, I thought it was a good topic for tonight, considering what's happening with Ubuntu Unity after 6 years of development. That's a long time for anybody, not just Ubuntu's team. So, but I have Unity now on my other desktop, and which is hooked up to my 40-inch screen, and it'll stay there for now. But I'll once 18.04 rolls around, I'll probably switch. I'm not sure because Ubuntu Unity will not be supported anymore by Ubuntu. I guess there'll be forks, offshoots, but like I say, a lot of things get forked up after a while. Good day, Mark. How you doing? Welcome. Yeah, for those of you starting late, I just played the UbuntuPodcast.org podcast, the latest podcast about Ubuntu Unity. Very good information. Hello, Joe. But the two things I got is the Ubuntu team or Canonical. They switched to Unity because, or switching from Unity because of a business decision. And the second big part of that podcast was the System 76. A good seller, but apparently half of the customers who buy System 76 with Unity prefer a different desktop environment. That's a lot for half. 18.401 to first maintenance release. Yeah, see, you might be right. Yeah, that might be a wise choice, or a wise thing to do. It makes sense. Massacre, hello. If all this forking continues, all this software might end up bombing itself. I don't know. The Ubuntu GNOME team, they'll merge with the Ubuntu desktop. No surprise there. DistroWatch who reviewed Ubuntu 17.04. Well, it's a 9-month release cycle for that. So I suppose not too much is being lost. For the people who really like Ubuntu Unity, like myself, I don't know if I'll switch to GNOME Shell. I don't know. You like the red straw? I grabbed one. Where did I get this from? Red Hat. Haha. No. Where did I grab this from? Tim Hortons the other night? I grabbed an extra one so I had it, but hey. Yes, the topic for tonight is red straws, but no. When Unity takes 2 gig of RAM, yeah, to run it comfortably, probably so. GNOME takes 1.5 gig. I don't know. I think, well, it used to take about the same amount of RAM in the past for GNOME to make it run properly. So I don't know. But my last test of GNOME 1704, it seemed to run a little faster. The system requirements may change. Yes. Joe, the choice for a System 76 machine, would that be Linux Mint? Now, I bet they would stay the same until some years later. Microsoft didn't change the system requirements since Vista. Yeah, well, the Windows is a whole different animal, though, so I don't know. I have a monk-approved bendy straw, Mountain Dew. The bendy straw, okay. Let me go to that website real quick. You guys can still chat. I'll monitor your comments here. You're on an iPad and can't type. You're not drunk. Okay, Joe, I believe you. The Mate desktop. Yep. I think that should have been Ubuntu's next DE, but we'll see what happens. Red Straw Linux. Yeah. Let me split screen it here for myself. Manjaro. Do I prefer to screencast in Windows or in Linux? It works equally well. I am awesome. It's a little bit more convenient in Windows because, as some of you know, with Linux screencasting, every once in a while I get the random the blackout of my screen. You guys don't see it. I do. It's a little bit annoying. I can deal with it. There simply are no updated drivers for my system. I really should update my computer and get a bigger monitor when I can. But as putting that aside, it's equally easy. Right now I'm running this in Wirecast. I believe Wirecast is for Mac and Windows only. But putting those issues aside, it is equally easy in Windows or Linux to screencast because you can just use Google Hangouts. Fast. I may do a video on that. Of course, there's OBS, but yeah, it's putting aside the issues of my video card. It's fine in both. You would not be upset with Mint either. Okay. Looks like there is a release date for Ubuntu 17.10. Let's see what that says. This is on fossbytes.com. What new features to expect? Does it really matter with the 17.10 release since it's going to be switched over? 18.04. Let's see. It says here, so it looks like the default GNOME desktop will begin in 17.10 and with the Wayland also. Okay. It will be called Ubuntu 17.10 Artful Aardvark. Okay. It is October 19th for the final release of 17.10. So I may test GNOME Shell in Ubuntu 17.10. Why not? Massacre does an i5 and 8 gig of RAM have to do with it. That's plenty for screencasting and or rendering videos. Yeah. So GNOME will be the default desktop in 17.10. Okay. Better hardware support. Wayland display server by default in 17.10. It makes sense. Yeah, I think a lot of people are curious about 17.10. Go 67. I think you're from the UK, mate. Welcome aboard. Let's see. Saying hello as I test my new OB Revenge install on the spare partition. Hello, Ghosty. How do you like OB Revenge? Isn't that based on Arch, I believe? Right? So here, Ghosty, we just finished listening to the UbuntuPodcast.org, the latest episode of the podcast on Ubuntu Unity. You may want to take a listen to that or replay this when I'm done, but it was very interesting in that podcast, and I thought it was appropriate for tonight's live event. I'm on the OMG Ubuntu website, and it's Flatience is a flat fork of Ubuntu's hip. I saw the word, I thought of flatulence is a flat fork. Say that five times. Flatulence is a flat fork. I better watch my mouth. Greetings from the UK. Okay, of course we know what UK stands for, right? Ubuntu Kingdom. Hey, matey. Yes, it's arts-based. Okay. Very good. So I guess it works okay, Ghosty? It says here this simple tweak will apparently make Firefox faster. I'm just clicking this on OMG Ubuntu just to see what it says. And the tweak says to install Chromium. Just kidding. Enable hardware acceleration in Firefox. Okay. Firefox 57 will be the first release to enable hardware in acceleration in Firefox on Linux. Oh, okay. I guess that would make it faster. Anyway. A quote from Mark Shuttleworth: "The beauty of free software is that projects are bigger than people or companies." Interesting. Do you think Ubuntu GNOME will be defunct after? Yeah, I mean, they pretty much, there was an announcement. The Ubuntu GNOME team will merge with the Ubuntu desktop. So I see no reason to have two separate official. Yeah, I think it'll be defunct, yeah. Joe says, I used to like GNOME when I first saw it, but it never seemed stable to me. Again, it's trying to get it, it's tweaking it to get the extensions to work. It's kind of like Linux Mint Cinnamon with the apps or with the spices. Anyway, Mark says, have you ever had time issues dual booting Windows with Linux? I found them messed up. Yeah, lately I have. There is a registry entry, that is true. There's also something else that you can use. I meant to do a video on that. It's not that difficult. Oh, what's the other way? I can't remember. But yes, Mark, I have. Linux Quest, hello. How you doing? He says, how you's doing? I'm doing fine, and you? That is Rob from Linux Quest and Destination Linux. Take a listen to the terrific podcast on Linux Quest, and I was on there a couple of weeks ago. We had a very good time. We had a special guest from Arnold. He popped in. It's good to be here. Anyway, Linux Quest and Destination Linux, and check out Big Daddy Linux also. But I actually did I did a chat with Big Daddy, your friend, Friday night at it was at midnight. We started blabbering along for an hour and a half. Anyway, it was fun, but I told him it's a bit long, and what I did, I took yeah, Rob, we talked about various topics. I would love to be back soon, Rob. We talked Friday night, and after I played it back the next day, I said, "Man, this is just too long." So I sent a truncated audio file to Big Daddy, and I removed almost half hour of silence and pauses. One person commented, "After 10 minutes, I fell asleep almost." I mean, yeah, me too. Anyway, I sent Big Daddy the truncated audio file if he wants to just delete the video portion, just do the audio podcast. But that's up to him. That's what I would do. But it was a bit long. It was fun, but anyway, yeah. Ghosty says, I hope the Ubuntu guys do something different with GNOME shell, otherwise Ubuntu will be indistinguishable from Fedora. I don't know, Ghosty. Um, I really don't know. I think Ubuntu will be okay, but I just like the Mate for now. But if GNOME gets better, faster, and the extensions don't break or don't get outdated and become very user friendly, I think I would be cool with Ubuntu GNOME. But we'll see. Getting an AMD card instead of NVIDIA, mistake when I upgraded a Dell. It's a hit and miss with NVIDIA with graphics cards, Massacre, but from my experience in the past, and this is non broadly scientific, NVIDIA and Intel graphics seem to be better, generally speaking, but there's no guarantee either way. Had intentions of using the free Windows upgrade. Well, look, I took advantage of it at the time. It's free. Why not? Windows 10 works. The number one thing I don't like about Windows 10 is the upgrade process updates. Don't like it. Period. Other than that, gaming is great. I'm running it now. It seems okay. Yes. Hello again to Rob from Linux Quest. I should do a quick news and nonsense, shouldn't I? The Mate staff deserves a standing ovation. Well, I don't have champagne, but I have Diet Pepsi and water, so a toast to them. Yeah, Martin Wimpress, I've spoken to him before. A year or so ago, maybe over a year. He was terrific, terrific guy. This is before Mate became even more popular. I mean, I kind of thought it would. And I believe, Rob, you had Martin on the Destination Linux podcast last week, I think. Yeah, but Marty is terrific. Yeah. Let's see what the latest Ubuntu Mate news, if there is anything. And nothing latest. Okay. But yeah, it seems like the entire Linux YouTuber universe loves Ubuntu Mate. Justifiably so, in my opinion. You did. Okay, Rob. Yeah. What would a distro based off Ubuntu Mate be called with XFCE Ubuntu Late? I don't know. Me and Rob joked when we did a news and nonsense, all these different names, offshoots of Linux. There was Ubuntu Late, Ubuntu Mate with LXDE. Kidding. There was a Hannah Montana Linux at one time. I thought, why not Joe Montana Linux or Tony Montana Linux, man? Hey, there's lots of choices. So Tony Montana Linux, you got to try this, man. Debian, okay. Shadow 7, hello. So those of you who heard the podcast, what did you think of it as a whole? I thought the information was great. Um, Manjaro KDE, okay. Ghosty loves Ubuntu Mate, but where they are changing the desktop too much. Oh, they plan to replace the default GNOME 2 style layout. It's an active thread. Oh. Uh, Rob, thank you. Super chat, $2. Thank you. Greatly appreciated. Yeah, I forgot to mention, I got so excited talking to you guys with Ubuntu. Ways to support the channel. Super chat is a great way, simple way. Super chat replaces fan funding. I'm such a dunce sometime. I forgot. Yeah, thank you, Rob. Super chat, of course, I have the Patreon page, PayPal. If you would like to support the channel, would be greatly appreciated. The channel could use your support. Thank you, Rob. Um, the Spatry Didn't Spatch Review had about analytics way back when? I don't know, man. Maybe he did. You need to talk to him, man. I don't know. He reviewed the ParaOS. I guess he didn't like it because the title of the video was ParaOS, the Linux that fell off the tree. Oh man! So Rob, thanks again for the yes. I do need more super chat. Absolutely. I need to get a bigger monitor. This 19 inch is too small, man. Just too small. Again, check out Linux Quest, Destination Linux. But yeah, I think they're still ahead of Montana Linux OS that you can still download somewhere. I'm not sure why. Um, it's still available. Okay. I don't know. I'm still thinking Tona Montana Linux, man. Some of these names for Linux apps, but hey, it's all good, I guess. I'm just browsing through some quick news articles to see if anything that's funny catches my eye. Interesting title here. A man discovers lost wallet in 2003 led to drinking game with his name. Okay. Will KDE ever find life in a mainstream Linux distro like GNOME 3 is about to? I don't know. I don't know. A lot of people I think Rob, you like KDE Neon, I think. Linux names, that needs to be a challenge. um, needs to be a college course, rather, yeah. And it is a challenge. Bernard asks, "What is my daily driver?" Well, I have two desktops. I have my Gateway here, which is great for Linux dual booting. I have my Lenovo desktop, which it's next to my big screen. I've had that 6 years. Great ThinkPads and Lenovo's, they are awesome. So check those out. But I use mainly right now, I use Windows 10 and Linux Mint 18 dot something on a somewhat daily basis. They both seem to work. I would say 60% Linux, 40 Windows. I would use more percentage in Linux, but those pesky graphics drivers, it's a hit and miss. But yeah, both seem to be okay. Ghosty says, I've not used KDE since OpenManDriva. Ooh, that's quite a few years. KDE is okay, but it just seems more resource hungry, resource intensive. Wisconsin truck carrying 20,000 pounds of cheese catches fire. I bet that would stink. And Tergos KDE is your favorite way to use KDE is also okay, Rob. Yeah, I believe you have mentioned that. Yeah. Woman tries to revive pigeon with CPR in Scotland. What if you have a TV for a monitor? I am awesome. My 40-inch can be used as a monitor, but it's too big. to put it right in front of me. I have my table right here. I just have the one table. Some YouTubers will have a table here, then they turn, there's a table. I just have one table with a white wall. And that 40-inch to put it's just way too big. I need like a 27-inch would be perfect. So yeah. But sure, a lot of TVs today can be used as a monitor. Why not? Uh, well, here's a headline. Firefighters break toilet to free Texas woman's arm. Hey, do a Google search. I'm just checking some latest tech news here. Well, according to Mark Zuckerberg, the smartphone is eventually going to die. That's interesting. Headline. Bernard asks, what distro of Linux would you recommend for a newcomer to Linux? Well, I'll give you a hint. It starts with M. Let's see here. By the way, the Samsung Galaxy 8, very, very nice looking phone. Very nice. Apparently, it is not a hot phone, as it were, compared to the Note 7. So I guess they cleared up the battery issues. Yeah, Mate is a very good choice. Yeah. Take care, Ghosty. Thanks. Yeah, it is 2:30 a.m. there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm going to try and do some of these, at least more accommodating time zones for you guys overseas. I don't mind doing more. I really need to get a bigger monitor. So if you guys can help out the channel, donating support through Super Chat and Patreon and PayPal, that would be greatly appreciated. And just support the channel in general. But yeah. Okay, Rob, take care. Thanks for joining in. Adam Grubbs, hello, welcome. Catch you later, Rob. Yeah, we'll do another news and nonsense soon. Tiny core, small footprint, big potential. Have not tried that OS. Here's a headline. Why is it okay to abuse customers? Speaking of customers, did you guys hear about the latest? Oh man, it was almost a fight on another airline. It's weird. Yeah. Hackers blast emergency sirens in Dallas. Okay. Uh, Screaming sirens serenaded Dallas residents in the early morning hours Saturday after a cyber attack on the city's emergency warning system. Ooh, nice firewall they have. Anyway, so if you're joining late, We took a listen to the. It's pretty nice. Toss gives you the bare minimum to build TinyCore. Thank you, C. If you are joining late, we played most of the UbuntuPodcast.org's the latest podcast concerning Ubuntu Unity. What happened, about the future of it. They talked a little bit about System 76. So when this is done, just play back the video, take a listen to it, and see what you think. But I thought the timing of the podcast was perfect for tonight. Gecko, American Air, yeah, I think it was. I'm starting to get the impression there's not enough fresh air on those planes. I don't know. It was a radio frequency replay attack. Okay. Another good website is insights.ubuntu.com. Nothing latest on this one. Latest news, rather. You like TinyCore, but not so fond because its packaging system mounts Squash FS images for packages. Okay. 10 snaps written in March. Let's take a look. I believe there's an update to Kdenlive if you ever mess with that. That's what I use in Linux to edit videos. And there's also Kdenlive for Windows too. So the latest Ubuntu snaps are Kubernetes, I don't know, Deep in Music, Simple Screen Recorder, cool, Snappy Discover, Ubuntu Make, Free Range Routing, Open Fort, TVPN, Go Package, Git Repo, Electron Quick Start. Terms of service today. Well, the terms of service today is to be here for every live event and to support the channel. How's those terms? I thought about changing the channel name, but I don't know. It's been around for 7 years now, so it just happens to be Total OS Today, Toss Today. Yeah. But Simple Screen Recorder is now part of the Ubuntu Snap package. Very good. I use that quite a bit in Linux. Let's see what's new at Noob's Lab. Some more indicators. Install Google Earth in Ubuntu 17.04. That's cool. Flowblade video editor. Have I tried that? I don't know. I think I have. Let's see. A bit like having a radio station, using it to duplicate the output of another radio station. Skill level, being hardware ability to press record and play. Take care, MC Strap. I'll catch you on the next one. Cool. You hope the rest of the Linux community adopts snaps, as that looks promising, yeah? Even Ambox, Android emulator, yeah. See, you're an old synaptic kind of guy. Yeah, I can certainly understand. Alright. Yeah, Galaxy S8 review. Gorgeous new hardware. Same Samsung gimmicks. Whatever that means. Okay. Just going through some of the tech headlines. Record the frequency, play it back on a Raspberry Pi. Russian man gets longest ever U.S. hacking sentence, 27 years. Whoa. That's a lot. Is there a way we can convince Windows users to try Linux? Well, I think I've convinced a lot in 7 years for them to at least try Linux. I don't think that's an issue. And who knows how many have switched or have partially switched, like dual booting. So I don't think that's an issue. Yeah. Maybe snaps could be a nail in a coffin of having to compile some Linux software, build it from source to install if it doesn't have a package. It could be, yeah. I'm probably going to wrap this up here soon, guys, okay? Here's a nice headline. Consider Linux as your go-to operating system. Let me click that real quick. This is radiomagonline.com. Radiomagonline.com, okay? Let's see. Linux, you probably have heard about this system over the years. What is it really? Let's see. Best of all, Linux is free to use. That's right. Open source code. Interesting article. Installation can be easy, yeah. Linux is a great operating system for engineers. Linux does require more technical know-how than Windows. Some Linux, maybe. We have to get software and games on Linux. Yeah. It's getting better, but it's not there yet. Use Windows for games, the rest is Linux. Why not? Sure. Cloud Ready OS. I think I've heard of it. What exactly is that? System 76 wants to build its own hardware for its Linux-based computers. Interesting. Chromium, okay. Take care, Slack. I'll catch you next time. Mark says, I hope that Windows 10 creators will not affect your dual boot setup. Me too. I don't think it will, but I usually back up and back up. If it does, I will not be happy. But Mark, we'll see what happens. I'm putting it off until the last minute, as it were. So yeah. Linux is free. You have to pay for Windows. Yes. C says, I stopped trying to get people on Linux. I'm the only Linux user with any experience up here, so I'm the only guy they call when they have a problem. I don't have time to do 24/7 Linux support. Okay. Well, hopefully channels like mine will help. I'm afraid to run Windows 10 on my dual boot machine because I've heard it attempts to rewrite the MBR. Yeah, I guess that's possible. Yeah. Alright, nothing else new on this website. SDR hardware. Why better technology won't stop violent videos going viral. Don't know about that one. Why Amazon is now the world's most interesting technology company. Interesting title. Let's see here. Your channel only helps when their computer will boot and get on the internet. That's true. See, I'm assuming it's not in that much of an issue with Windows 10 to get on the internet. Probably maybe more in Linux. I don't know, but you're right. Of course, a lot of people have mobility hardware such as smartphones and tablets. Yeah. The creators update breakthrough Windows install. Oh no, then I reverted to the birthday update thing. You got rid of my Manjaro EFI entry. Oh man, yeah. I hear ya. Sometimes I feel like I owe Linux something for all it's given me. Well, share your thoughts. I'm giving back through these live events and exposing Linux to Windows users. So yeah. If you boot and it ends up overwriting MBR, even with the update service disabled, when I go to reboot after using it, I will just remove it from your PC. Okay. Alright. Will more viruses start to show up after many people move from Windows? I don't think so. I wouldn't be surprised if a certain percentage of hackers, whatever, use Linux to hack Windows. So why would they want to hack themselves? Does that make any sense? Dual boot with 2 separate hard drives will solve the rewrite issue. Okay. Yep. Or reduce the volume 1 drive. You are dual booting and put Linux on a new partition. Use grub. Use the USB grub to boot. USB to boot the grub on an SSD. Yeah. You have 5 different drives. That's a lot of driving there. I am awesome. Here's an interesting title. Bill Gates limits his children's use of technology. Interesting. What does he know that we don't know? Four in 10 Americans say technology leads them to pay more for convenience. What kind of convenience? Personal electronics make you a constant target for marketing. Okay. I guess that makes sense. Checking the latest updates on podcasts. So yeah, Linux, the Mintcast is April 30th. Okay. Mintcast.org is another pretty good podcast website. All right, so I'm going to give this 5 more minutes and I think we'll end the show. Let's see. Why does every car infotainment system look so crappy? I don't know. You install Linux on a PC without USB DVD drive through booting ISO on Grub to Win. Do you think it's possible to install without USB DVD drive even when Win10 blocks non-Windows on bootloader? So if you don't have a disk drive or USB drive, I don't know. How would you do that? See, in my BIOS, when I dual boot, I had to go into the BIOS and change a few settings. I turned off fast boot because Windows 10 boots kind of fast anyway, and I had to do one more thing. I forget what it is, but if I didn't put, I had to go into the boot order in my BIOS, and if I didn't put Ubuntu first, I couldn't dual boot. Yeah, the user extensible, I forget what they call it, but the UFI, I call it the Goofy, but the UFI, yeah. Secure boot, yeah. 15 podcasts for FOSS fans. Bad Voltage E, Floss Weekly, Free as in Freedom, GNU World Order, Hacker Public Radio, Blender Podcast, Sunday Morning Linux Review, Linux Lug Cast, the Open EdTech Podcast, Linux Action Show, the Blender Institute Podcast, the Geek News Radio E, Geek Rant, Open Source Creative E, Still Untitled E. Anyway, some popular podcasts, I guess. Turning off secure boot, yeah. Yeah. I believe that's usually a recommendation when dual booting. I guess Hacker Public Radio Podcast is community driven of anything of interest to hackers. Yes, Unified Extensible Firmware Interface. That sounds about right, yeah. Okay, well, enough of that. So, I heard it could be possibly logged to on some Windows 10 PCs. I don't know. Let me do one last search here. All right, nothing really exciting there. So, any last thoughts for this evening, guys? I'm going to wrap this up on the Ubuntu podcast. I think everybody liked it. Timely topic. Thank you. I am awesome. Yep, you're quite welcome. Take care. The computer vendor does that as absolutely nothing to do with Windows. I think you are correct, C. Yeah. That is up to the vendor on what they choose. Yeah. Yeah. Microsoft removed the requirement to have a secure boot toggle. Oh, okay. so far I've had pretty good luck dual booting my systems so far. Forcing manufacturers to not let the user have an option to turn it off. Yeah, that would not be user friendly, that's for sure. It makes me wonder what's going to be in computers, or what's going to happen 5 years from now. You know, I don't know. I think Ubuntu mod table will continue to be popular. Um, I think there will only be a handful of Linux distros that will be even more popular for the masses, not so much, geeks, as it were. Um, yeah, that's true. See, but I wonder if Microsoft has a lot of input to the vendors to tell them what to do. Yep, the Lenovo scandal. I believe that is over. I forget what that piece of software was called. I can't remember. Always turn secure boot off, and secure boot isn't needed by anything in your experience. Okay, might as well. Let's checking my messages, and okay, nothing there. Okay. Superfish. That's right, Shadow. Yeah, Superfish. I remember that. Hmm. From 2015, yeah. Hmm. Speaking of Superfish, I guess there is a proposed class action. Huh. On Superfish. Interesting. Huh. This is from April 13th or April 12th from Canada. Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I think it is over. Yeah, that was from Superfish from February 2015. Anyway, take care, Mark. I'm just going to give it one more minute, give everybody a chance. Last call here for their comments, and call it a night. Thank you. Yeah, I don't think Lenovo has Superfish anymore. I think they learned their lesson. You just can't hide things like that, especially with everybody posting everything on the internet. It's anyway. But do check out the UbuntuPodcast.org. If you like listening to it, tell the guys great job on their website, and take a listen to future episodes. What are people going to do? Pirate the enterprise version of Windows just to have an option to turn the privacy tracking stuff off? I guess. The last couple of Lenovo's were ThinkPad T42520. Everything after that have crappy keyboards. Really? Huh. Okay. I'm not sure. What do I have? I got a T60. That's all that comes to mind. Yeah, security just to make Windows rootkits not happen, but to do that, they need to block any OS not signed by Microsoft. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Okay, one more minute and I'm done. Any final thoughts on what you heard tonight, or any comments, suggestions, rants? I guess Superfish was defective. It didn't work. Take care. Have a good night. Napier, Jeremy Napier. Okay. T60 was a core too. Yeah, I think so. See, yeah. Yeah, I think so. Hmm. Turn off secure boot. Well, don't need it. Yeah, I think most distros or some they recommend turn off fast boot and secure boot if I recall correctly. And remember, if you're going to install Linux with dual boot, always back up just in case. And of course, you should back up anyway, period. Okay, guys, I am done. Um, you have several T60s. Yeah, it's a good machine, a little bit on the slow side. But I have several ThinkPads, see, and they seem reliable. So, outdated, but they just work. They just work. I kind of dropped one. It's a little bit cracked, a piece of plastic cracked on the side there, but they're a workhorse. I don't use laptops as much anymore, either my desktop, my tablet, or my smartphone. But the ThinkPads, at least the ones I have, are pretty solid. So yeah, check them out. Okay, guys, I'm done. Have a good evening. Thank you for joining me. Subscribe if you haven't. Tell your friends. Support the channel. It would be greatly appreciated. Um, that's it, guys. I am done. Have a good night, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thank you.